Happy Friday. Welcome back to Mets Daily. Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio at Mets Daily Show on Twitter. Smash that thumbs up on the video right now. Subscribe to the show. The boys are back in town, the Mets and the former crew of Amazing But True. Nelson Figueroa at FIGUENY on Twitter and co-host of New York Sports Nation Nightly on Pix 11 and everything else they do there. Let's get right into it. We're in a rush today. I got my other job. You got your other job. We're Jamaican. We got a lot of jobs. But we aren't a member of the Boston Red Sox, which RAFAEL DEVERS might not be either at some point soon. So let's get into it. The topic of the day. Should the Mets trade for RAFAEL DEVERS? Figgy? I'm going to go first on this one because I want to get your outlook, but I hate a guy that is under contract for this long of a period of time, making $28.5 million, signing a 10-year, $313.5 million deal, who won't move to play first base. You're not curing cancer. You're not curing COVID. You're not a. I don't know. I don't know what other reference to make. It's moving to first base. This isn't rocket science. In fact, that's one of the easier positions probably on the diamond. If Pete Alonso can play it decent, I think you can too, Rafi. So, I don't know. As a Met fan, I hate the fact he's so anti-first base. They said they moved him to a position already, Figgy. A position is DH where you're hitting. It doesn't count as a position. So, I think he's out of town. But if you're a Met fan as me, I'm not interested. What say you?
I'm not interested just because of payroll flexibility. That's what I would say. You got a guy like Mark Vientos who is on the cheap for a little while longer, so might as well ride that one out, right? With the way Pete Alonso is hitting, you expect a possible extension to be offered to him, and you try to do it as soon as possible. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, let's just wait and see how it goes, and he's going to opt out anyway. Might as well just ride it out and see where he's at in September. But I think with the Mets playing so well and Pete doing unbelievably well, you kind of want to have it as a feel-good story going forward. Lock him up, let him finish his career as a Met. I don't think he's doing you a disservice in any way, shape, or form. The way that he has performed since getting through the free agency thing. Now going back to Devers, he said, and what he said is he didn't want to move positions at this point. You already started the season. He has no background in ever playing first base. And the last thing a major league player wants to do, who is a guy who's acclimated to being a third baseman and being a hitter, he gets paid to hit. Let's be quite honest. It's not like he's a gold glover at third base, but he gets paid to hit. But now you want to move him over to first base. Let me tell you the problem with him going over to first base without an ounce of confidence of wanting to be at first base. Everybody throws the ball at you on every single play. Mm-hmm. You miss the ball, you make a bad scoop, and the ball gets by you. Now the runners are in scoring position. There's a lot more factors that come into 27 times a game where the balls are being thrown in your direction. The hit in his direction, sure, it's a ground ball. He's just got to run over to first base. It sounds easy. But we've seen Pete Alonso flipping the ball to first base, having a couple of issues already this year, and he's an established first baseman, right? So just flipping balls to first base, that's something that you work on in spring training, the timing of it all, knowing the pitchers, who's fast, who's not, who's an athlete, who do you got to hand the ball off to or try to run yourself. There's a lot that goes into it. In the meanwhile, remember how he started off hitting? What was he, 3 for 40 some odd with 30 punch-outs? And now he's hitting the ball well. He's hitting like RAFAEL DEVERS. And now you want to add on to his plate, hey, by the way, you should play first base and have an opportunity to get booed and ridiculed every single moment of every single day for if you miss a ball, if you don't play the position well, or you've never played the position before. It's not like hiding him in left field, right? All you got to do is play the ball off the wall, off the monster. This is a very different situation and something where he didn't say he doesn't want to do it. He just said he would like to have had an opportunity to work at it and be good at it and not just – you can't just put a guy in a position just because you don't have somebody else.
But they tried to do it in spring training, and he said no. So spring training is the perfect time to work on these things. So you would have given him a couple of weeks there. That's, I think, a decent sample size to work on the fundamentals of first base. Now, I agree with you. I mentioned his contract early because the Mets aren't bringing on another $300 million contract. You got Soto, you got Lindor, you got Nimmo's big contract. I don't think they're going to want to take on RAFAEL DEVERS. Listen, he is only in year 3 of this deal. He is under contract until 2033. He's not a free
Right.
agent until 2034. And if the Mets weren't signing Jose Iglesias for $4 million because of all the youth they had in the infield, they're sure not going to sign RAFAEL DEVERS. So I think it's a moot point, but it's obviously worth discussion because he is an incredible player. Let's be real. He's a really good hitter. He's already got 25 RBIs this season, right up there with Pete Alonso. Like, he is having a fantastic year. He's had a fantastic career. He's a World Series champion. He grew up into the Red Sox, but I think that relationship is clearly now fractured. Now, it's a tough contract to trade, but if a team is in need of a great, an elite DH or a solid third baseman, I would imagine there's going to be some interest in trying to get him. But I don't know, Figgy. I think you gave him a chance to play first in March. He said no. I get why he wouldn't want to do it in season. But, what do you think of that mindset? And did you ever have a player where they asked to move and they said no? Or did you have a player where they asked to move and they said, yes, I'll do anything for the team?
Oh yeah, no. Most players in certain situations, like getting a guy to move from in the outfield from center field to left field. We see that with Brandon Nimmo. Didn't bat an eyelash. Went over and played left field. Those are the things that happen. But that's if they ask Brandon Nimmo to play shortstop, obviously he's going to say no. That's a very unfamiliar thing. And I get what you're thinking. No, just go over to first base, work on it in spring training. He was already pissed off because they went out and they signed a third baseman, right? They signed a third baseman and brought him in, and they both show up and they're both wearing their infield mitts to both play third base. And it was obvious that they weren't going to both play third base. It was like there was no communication ever. And that's the problem that he's had with this organization. The guy that signed him to that long-term contract is no longer there. So he's a man on an island right now, and he's getting blamed for all the ills of anything that happens in Boston because he's got the highest contract. Alex Cora has said, listen, the guy that paid you all that money is no longer here. So when the new GM and says, let's move him to a different position, you got to be flexible. You got to be understanding with that. And he's like, I was paid to be the third baseman for a long time. And now you went out and you got, in the last minute, you went and got Bregman to bring him into spring training, in February when they signed him. And, there was never a plan of what they were going to do with him. And then it was like, oh, he'll start out playing second base. And everything always works itself out. It just always happens that way. My biggest thing is he was not taking reps at first base because they had a young stud first baseman in Casas who was slated to be the first baseman. So why are you going to be, messing around over there on the other side of first base? You're not playing there. You might play there once in a blue moon. You might play there in a weird situation. But I think when you're an all-star third baseman and that's next to your name, unless it's a move like we saw with A-Rod had to move because Jeter was there. A-Rod was the bigger stud player, the star player, the guy with more talent. You would have figured that could have been a disaster, right? But A-Rod said, you know what? And you know how they got him with it? This is how they got him. They told him, hey, look at Cal Ripken. All the great ones move over to third base. And he was like, oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to show you I'm as good as Cal Ripken or better. And he almost hit 700 home runs in his career. So plus he got paid, $500 million in essence by the time he was done. And I think he was quite all right with just worrying about playing third base. It's just different. It's just different. And there was no communication. You got to have better communication than that with a star player like that. And you have a manager who speaks his language. So there's no language barrier. He has to let it be known that this is what's going on. This is what we got to try to do. It's going to help the team. There's no way that RAFAEL DEVERS is sitting there going, I don't want to help the team. Too bad.
Any way you slice it, it's a fractured relationship, and I think he's going to be on the trade market. Not saying he gets traded, but they're going to shop him, Figgy. And we know one thing, mostly because of financial reasons, the Mets won't be interested. As much money as Steve Cohen has, you got Acuna. You still have Beatty for now, although I think he's gone. You got Vientos. Obviously, they're not as good as RAFAEL DEVERS, but we're talking about $30 million a year at third, $30 million at first, $50 million at right, 25 at left, $30 million at short. I mean, you got to have positions where you have youth players on $700,000 contracts. That's how teams work.
Thank goodness Acuna has started out the way that he has, and rookie of the month of April, and now he's kind of a fixture in that lineup because of all the things that he can do: his speed, his athleticism, the way he turned an unreal double play off the wrong leg, all these little things that are making him a very viable option. Brett Beatty stinking it up helps because now if you could throw Beatty in a trade because he's a third baseman, he's a guy who can play multiple positions as well. They could put him at second. They could do a lot of different things. If you could throw, it depends on the package you would have to give up because think about it, right? You're going to have to give up something pretty significant. It's not they're not going to. I don't want to see the internet be like Brett Beatty, Starling Marte,
Those
and
get me so. Here's my trade. If you do it, Jonah Tong, Brett Beatty, Jet Williams, Alex Ramirez, or another mid-level prospect. I think that's fair. I think
that's fair.
Tong is lighting it up right now.
But here's the thing: the money. It still comes down to the money. How much of the money are the Red Sox willing to pay Devers to go away? Again, a premier hitter, and there's another New York team that could use a third baseman. It would never happen because it's Boston, New York.
Break the internet. Devers to the Yankees. You heard it here first on Mets Daily. Smash that thumbs up. Let us know in the comments. Are you interested in RAFAEL Devers, or is this just a fun rumor we're talking about? They tell me the rumors do well. I'm not the big clickbaity guy. I don't make the headlines, just like in the freaking old place I work. I don't write the headlines. So stop getting mad at me, people. At Figgy and Y, at Jake Brown Radio. We got about one more minute because I'm Jamaican and have other jobs. It's spicy, though. You are Latino man. You guys like food spicier. So it's a spicy rumor. Mets Cubs playoff preview. This is a team that I picked to win the Central that is on top of the Central right now, who's got a ton of offense and who's got you know who. It rhymes with, you have ACH as your account. This is a PCH. This is the for the poor people, the poor CH. That's me. I am PCH. P. Crow Armstrong, or PCA, excuse me. I messed it up. I ruined the joke. P. Crow Armstrong. I don't know where I got the H from. PCA. We have a PSA. The PCA trade was terrible, and we don't need to keep talking about it. It was a terrible trade. At the time, the Mets thought Baez would propel the Mets to the playoffs. He didn't. His $1 million earrings are still in the grass at Citi Field somewhere. We know the story. He might not have developed into this guy as a Met. We don't know. With some of how guys, he could have been Fernando Martinez with the Mets. We don't know. But in the end, the trade was bad, 100%. But he's a Cub now. The Mets got to hope, the Jet Williams of the world, Drew Gilbert is the Mets' P. Crow Armstrong. But what do you think about PCA? What do you think about the Cubs? This should be a fun weekend at Citi Field. Quick, we got about 1 minute left.
No doubt. I think we should start that segment all over again because you said PCH.
No,
just go back. Just start from PCA.
This is live. There's no editing. This is live.
PCA. So PCA, yes, that's he is a very talented player. Let's see how he continues to develop. He's making the most of being a Chicago Cub, and I love it. They said the same thing about Kelnick when he was hitting 10 home runs to lead the American League for a while, and then what has happened to Kelnick since? He's been batting under 200 ever since. So let's just wait and see about. I get it. The Baez move was a move to try and foster a team who had playoff aspirations. Not every trade works out. Not every trade is always equal. But at the time that you make the trade, you're trying to make your team better. And so I at least commend them for trying to do something that, had an idea to make this team more competitive and be better. So at the end of the day, I think one thing that you love about seeing players is that your development staff is drafted well. I mean, that's what it shows. It shows that he started out in the Mets farm system, and whatever that's worth, that gives you hope for that. The fact that now that you have David Stearns, you're feeling a lot better about there's a sustainable success, lying underneath right now with it bringing up guys. And because injuries are piling up, you're starting to see a lot of guys who are coming up from the minor leagues and they're having some success, which is good to see instead of it, being the usual turnout that it was like, okay, as soon as this guy finishes pitching, he's got to get DFA'd.
7:15, and noon on Sunday. Roku game on Sunday, a noon start. So we get Gary Cohen with Joe Girardi on the Roku call Sunday. How about that? Finally, one of these other streams gets Gary Cohen in the booth. Maybe they paid him a pretty penny, but looking forward to that little duo. I'm not going to have Roku. I think it still is on the MLB app Sunday, so thank God for that. I say Mets take 2 out of 3 this weekend. It's a good test for them. The schedule police will be watching closely, saying the Mets aren't playing good enough teams. Well, here's a good team. If they win this series, make another excuse, you freaking losers. Juan Soto's arrived. Starling Marte's on watch. We both love Papi Chulo. He won't be on this roster if he's sitting below the Mendoza line. There's just no space for him.
True story.
And it's an expiring contract. At Figgy and Y, Picks 11, Sports Nation Nightly, 7 to 7:30 p.m. Figgy, thank you so much for coming on. I wish we could do it longer, but unfortunately we're on a time crunch. We'll talk to you in a few weeks. We've been doing this about once a month. So we'll talk to you in June. Let's go Mets. Mets Cubs. Clay Holmes hockey jersey tonight. Edwin Diaz bobblehead. A couple good promotions. The Knicks are up 2 games to nothing. Orange and blue skies here on Mets Daily. Figgy, enjoy the series.
You got it.
We'll talk to you Monday at Mets Daily. Thanks for watching, everybody. Smash that thumbs up. Subscribe. We'll talk to you Monday. Peace.